Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for the Coordinating Center's Community Enrichment Series regarding transitioning youth and what to know as you and your youth grow. This series will be presented by Alyssa Stoffel and myself, Cheryl Nickel. Next slide, please. We're excited to have you here for our presentation today. Alyssa has been with the Coordinating Center for almost 9 years and is currently a team manager for the REM program. I've been with the Coordinating Center for almost 7 years as a model waiver clinical care coordinator. We are both active on our Transitioning Youth Committee resources to ensure their journey to adulthood is a positive one. Next slide, please. Today's presentation will be recorded, so please remain on mute. It will be available on our website to be viewed at a later time and used as a resource for you and your youth in the future. There will be an opportunity at the end of the presentation for questions you may have regarding the transitioning youth process.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, can you please put yourself on mute? Please type your questions in the chat box so that we can address them during the Q&A. The Q&A will not be recorded, and during the Q&A, please trust that this is a safe space, no judgments. We will email you the slides and any unanswered questions during following today's presentation. Next slide, please. This webinar is intended for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical or legal advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Next slide, please. Our objectives for this presentation include to help you and your youth feel empowered to begin the transitioning youth process, to understand the building blocks of the transitioning youth process, and to know where to locate the resources and supports related to the transitioning youth process. Next slide, please. During this series, we will be discussing a guide for families and caregivers of children living with disabilities and/or complex medical needs through the journey of transitioning youth to adulthood. This series will offer an introduction to the importance of the transitioning youth process. We will be discussing advocacy programs and resources for transitioning youth and their families, as well as reviewing important milestones and timelines for the transitioning youth process. Next slide, please. So what is transitioning youth? Transitioning youth is defined as a critical process for adolescents and young adults, ages 14 to 21, that focuses on assisting individuals and their families with the transition to adulthood, which covers healthcare, employment, social settings, residential planning, financial planning, and beyond. Today, we will focus on a high-level overview of the transitioning youth process and all the pieces and parts of life that becoming an adult can impact. The supporting programs that we will touch on provide specialized support in one or more areas of the transitioning youth process. There will be a QR code at the end of this presentation that will allow you to access the Transitioning Youth Toolkit. The toolkit will hold valuable resource links that can assist you and your youth with the transition process. Next slide, please. The programs listed here all support the transitioning youth process. If you are connected to one or more of the programs listed, your coordinator or supports planner can help you access transitioning youth resources, assist you with the transition process, and help guide you to a program that meets your needs as you transition to adulthood. We have placed a QR code and link to our website on this slide. This QR code and link will allow you to access information on each program listed. All of these programs are offered through the Coordinating Center. Be sure to explore information on all of the programs listed to ensure you are connected with the program to best fit you and your youth's needs. Of note, a person can only be enrolled in one waiver at a time. Next slide, please. The transitioning youth process should begin around age 14 with the goal of completion by age 21. We will be discussing the different building blocks of the transitioning youth process, which include medical, educational/social, financial, residential, legal, and transportation. I'm going to hand it over to Alyssa now to talk about the building blocks of the transitioning youth process more in depth.
You can move to the next slide. All right, so we're jumping right in. A stable foundation is the first building block to a successful transitioning youth process. When our overall health and well-being is in a stable place, we're best able to focus on other aspects of life. To best support our clients at the coordinating center, we focus on our transitioning youth clients by age groups. We start at age 14 and begin the process encouraging young adults to be more active in their healthcare and medical appointments, to discuss questions that they may have and have their adults model how they can ask them. We want families and their youth to choose a healthcare tracking tool. And the QR code on this slide leads you to the Transitioning Youth Milestone Checklist, just one type of tracking tool. Please scan it if you want to explore further. By age 16, our youth should be more comfortable participating in their healthcare decisions, if they're able, and anticipate being part of the exploration of adult providers, a process that it should include their current pediatrician and specialty providers. It is important to consider how long their pediatrician will be able to care for their needs. What happens if the pediatrician retires, changes practices, or is no longer able to provide care? At this age, youth should also be able to begin tracking medical appointments and express understanding of medications, medical equipment, and supplies, why they are used, and how to refill them. At the coordinating center, we also begin the use of our transitioning youth assessments in most of our programs at age 16 and continue completion annually to encourage these conversations. By age 18, youth should be as active in their healthcare as they are able, and important discussions should already be underway. At this point, we're encouraging our clients and their families to review current health insurance coverage and determine if it meets their needs, as well as investigating continued coverage plans for adulthood as well. If needed, medical power of attorney or guardianship should be sought, and a discussion with the client and their medical team should occur surrounding advanced care planning, advanced directives, and the active transition to adult providers should be officially taking place at age 18. Then by age 21, the process of transitioning youth should be largely complete. The youth and their family should have a plan in place that they're comfortable with. Transitions to adult providers should be nearing completion, and if able, youth should be managing their healthcare independently. Next slide. So building onto our foundation, we're moving on to the next building block, legal. At age 16, we're beginning to investigate guardianship or power of attorney if applicable, and youth can begin to apply for a Maryland State Identification Card or explore driver's education. By age 17, you're choosing which path fits best for your young adult, preparing for transfer of rights to a young adult at age 18, or beginning to petition the local probate court for guardianship. And then by age 18, the transfer of rights to a young adult is happening if it's able to, or guardianship or power of attorney is being established. You also want to be completing advanced directives with your primary care provider at this time. At the coordinating center, our clients are encouraged to have advanced directives accessible in Maryland through the MOLST, and decisions surrounding legal power of attorney versus guardianship are an immensely important focus for all young adults with special healthcare needs, especially if they'll need assistance making their medical and financial decisions. I'm going to share a brief description of some of the available options. First, we have surrogate decision maker, which is put into place if there is no advanced directive available. A surrogate decision maker, as defined by law, can make decisions which are in accordance with an individual's wishes. If those wishes are not known, decisions are to be made in an individual's best interests. Then we have healthcare power of attorney. This is a legal document that allows someone else to make healthcare decisions for another individual if they cannot make them for themselves. Financial power of attorney is a legal document that names someone else to handle decisions about some or all of another individual's finances. And for either of the power of attorney options, how much authorization the named power of attorney has and whether the start of the authorization begins immediately depends on the state regulations and the type of documentation the person and their lawyer creates. We have some great information regarding all of these options and the topic of guardianship from our February Community Enrichment Series. So please scan the QR code on this slide for access to this resource. You can move to the next slide. Educational and social planning is another huge part of planning for adulthood. What will life after school look like? What track has the youth followed or will follow during school? For students in Maryland, there are two choices. A diploma can be obtained until the age of 21, or a certificate for program completion can be awarded between the ages of 18 to 21 years old. If a youth is following a certificate track, it's always a good idea to start the discussion of what supports and services can be put into place if a youth is leaving the educational system at the age of 18. Due to some restrictions in Maryland, leaving the educational system at the age of 18 can prevent DDA participation until the age of 21, which can cause gaps in critical support for some of our youth. Further, to prepare for graduation, if the youth has an IEP, make sure that the document is up to date and that all testing and evaluations are current. If a youth is attending college, ask, can the chosen college meet your needs medically and educationally? Are grants and scholarships available? Will you commute or stay at college? If you're staying at college, what type of supports are needed? Are you connected with the right resources? Get connected with the Disability Support Office at your chosen college as soon as possible. And if you're looking into a day program or supportive employment post-graduation, we encourage the youth to start visiting and applying to the programs that meet their needs around age 18. If you're connected with a case manager or supports planner, they can assist with gathering needed documentation. All states have a disability services program. In Maryland, this is the Division of Rehabilitation Services, also known as DOORS. DOORS offers programs and services that help people with disabilities go to work. Maryland also offers specific funds known as transitioning youth funds, available for individuals at the age of 21 to 22 years old to assist with their transition out of school and to the next step. I want to share a quick success story with all of you to show you how these building blocks allowed one individual to achieve his goals of a successful college experience. In late 2019, we had a client join the REM program after moving to the Baltimore area from out of state. He had an unexpected illness that had resulted in quadriplegia and the use of a wheelchair and ventilator, among other needs. However, he was determined to achieve the full college experience, including living on campus, attending in-person classes, and social events. His case manager helped him achieve that by working with him in the Disability Supports Office at the college to secure campus housing that allowed his mother to stay when needed. Private duty nursing was put into place to support him, and he was checking off all those boxes of college life. Then the pandemic hit, and like thousands of students, he had to return home and attend classes virtually. However, when restrictions lifted, he returned to Baltimore and the REM program. He graduated with his bachelor's degree about a year ago, and when he left college to return home, he told his case manager, "Don't go anywhere. I'll be back for my master's degree." So just like this individual, we share these building blocks to help you achieve whatever you envision as your success story. Next slide. All right, so we've discussed our foundation: medical, legal, and educational building blocks. We're continuing to build the tower to a successful transition. For guardians, this looks like informing your employer-based insurance coverage of your young adult's disability and investigating continued eligibility options, as well as assisting your young adult with exploring continued medical insurance options. And for young adults, if you're able to work, you want to review your employer-based health insurance coverage for options. And if you plan to apply for supplemental security income, you can apply for Social Security benefits 1 month after turning 18, and you must keep assets under $2,000. Financial independence is really based on the question, can the young adult manage their own finances? Or will they need a guardian or financial power of attorney like all of the other, or will they need a guardian or financial power of attorney? Like all the other aspects of transitioning youth, we encourage the financial conversation to occur early and often. So at age 17, we're encouraging the individual and their family to contact the Social Security Administration to explore and see what the youth might need to apply for supplemental security income independent of their family. And at age 18, if they're interested and it's applicable, we're encouraging that application to SSI 1 month after their 18th birthday. If approved for SSI, Medicaid is an attached service with healthcare as a benefit. It is important to review closely and frequently the parameters for income and deadlines to complete redetermination applications, especially for youth that are seeking supportive or regular employment. On this slide, we have the QR code for you to be able to apply for SSI. And also be aware that Maryland provides some resources for financial planning related to employment through the DOORS program, and also that the Social Security Administration has a great resource for the ABLE Act, which is related to allowing people with disabilities to save money. All right, so continuing on, residential planning remains vital to a successful transition to adulthood. When deciding on a housing option to best fit individual needs, we need to think about housing as being accessible, affordable, and located in the community of our choice. What type is the best fit? Will it be a family home, a group home, a supportive or assisted living environment, or your own independent home? Some important points to think about for each option are, if in a family home, discussing aging caregivers, needed modifications, and respite needs. If it's a group home that fits your needs, locate a home that fits you best. Consider the age of the residents, staffing of the home, the overall experience presented, and the funding source. If supportive living or alternative living seems more your style, how much support is going to be needed? Medication administration, assistance with activities of daily living, supervision, transportation. What's the age of the other residents in the home? What's the overall experience like? And if you're planning to live independently, are physical modifications needed to your home? Are any supports needed? Are there backup caregivers available in case of emergency? Will the youth need assistance with payment of bills associated with living independently? With any of these options, which is the safest and most fulfilling for the individual? Residential wishes can change as an individual ages, so be sure to explore possibilities as often as needed. This leads me into another quick client story. In the REM program, we had been working with an individual navigating his transitioning youth process since the age of 14. He'd been insistent about remaining living in his family home until about the age of 20, when he reached out to his case manager and said he really wanted more independence from his family. His case manager helped him along with his family to explore different living options, and eventually they chose a group home. He's happily living there today. All of his needs are being met safely, and he's achieving the independence that he desired. Next slide. We have just gone over a lot, and we're not done yet. Transportation is the last piece and last block on our building block tower for its successful transition. Youth should ask, how do I get to all the places that I want to go to enjoy a fulfilled life? Luckily, in Maryland, we have many choices, but all choices come with different potential barriers that a youth may need to navigate successfully. For Maryland Medicaid recipients, transportation is a benefit. However, there are some eligibility and scheduling considerations that may cause challenges with use. Another option is public transportation. Buses and cabs are available, but navigation of schedules, locations, cost, accessibility, and fare discounts may require additional support. Finally, there's an option of private transportation, but a vehicle may require modification to be accessible, which can be expensive, and community funding resources can be limited. Young adults may also wish to test for their driver's license. If you're connected to a case manager or supports planner, they can help with gathering required documentation. The QR code on this slide links to a great resource for the MVA and motorists with disabilities. Again, begin this conversation early, explore your resources, and find the fit that is best for you. I'm handing this back over to Cheryl to discuss additional resources and supporting programs briefly, and then we'll open up for questions.
Thank you. We hope this presentation was helpful to learn how and when to start the transitioning youth process, learn community resources, and know how to access Maryland support programs, as well as other resources for transitioning youth. Please scan the QR code on this slide to access to the Coordinating Center's Transitioning Youth Toolkit. It provides resources related to all of the building blocks that we've discussed today. Next slide. Again, Alyssa and I thank you for your time and attention today. Please join us for the Coordinating Center's future community enrichment topics. The next community enrichment series will take place on May 21st at 12 p.m. Kelly Nelson will be discussing ABLE accounts, a financial planning tool for people with disabilities and their families. You may scan the QR code attached to this slide to register. We will be stopping our recording at this time and begin our Q&A. Please type all questions in the chat box. Thank you.
Cheryl and Alyssa, we have one question in the chat. Is there assistance to buying a home?
There are